The White House, the Congress, the prospect of change.
The importance of each and every vote.
Protect and to preserve our voting system.
From the ACLU, this is At the Polls, a special mini-series on, you guessed it, voting. I'm Molly McGrath, a voting rights lawyer and organizer, and your host for this series.
The right to vote of all of our young people
belongs to you.
The machinery of democracy should work for everyone, everywhere.
This week, we're answering the question, what will election night look like during a global pandemic? There are things that we've come to expect from election night.
This is Walter Cronkite in our CBS News election headquarters.
A hefty amount of speculation.
We do have some projections that we can call at this hour.
News anchors and digital maps.
The black portions indicate where the Democrats are in the lead.
The race to 270.
Right now on the race to 270, Mitt Romney has 150.
And eventually, someone wins.
Bill Clinton, the projected winner tonight, he'll go well past the 270 required.
Well, most of the time that's on election night.
Florida has gone from too close to call to Gore to too close to call to Bush to too close to call.
But even in the 2000 election, when the race wasn't resolved for a month, a lot of vote reporting was still able to happen on election night.
It's now down to 168,000 votes. It's getting very close. Who would have thought?
Of course, that wasn't during a global pandemic. So what's going to be different about Election Day in 2020 from other election days?
There's a safety concern about people congregating in crowds. And so early on during the pandemic, lots of people made a decision, and some states made a decision to shift to voting by mail. There are 5 states that ordinarily conduct their elections by mail. I think the latest count is that about 9 states will be doing that in 2020. In a lot of other states, people will be able to vote by mail if they choose to without an excuse. And then I think there are 6 states where you have to have an excuse, or you have to be at least over a certain age, like 60 or 65, before you can vote.
And of course, when the vote counting takes longer, media organizations don't get to announce a winner.
It has not been a sterling evening for vote projections. It's the big roll of the dice at this hour because absentee ballots still have to be counted.
These delays in declaring the winner can lead to opportunities for either side to make claims of election rigging or fraud. And what's more, close races can mean a high likelihood for recounts in the days after the election.
The most important thing is, if you want to have people believe in a fair election, is to actually hold a fair election. And so I think everything should be done right now to make sure that all eligible voters, but only eligible voters, can easily cast a vote and safely cast a vote that will be fairly and accurately counted.
This is the face of a UNIVAC. A UNIVAC is a fabulous electronic machine which we have borrowed to help us predict this election from the basis of the early returns as they come in.
Here's a fun fact. During the first coast-to-coast election night broadcast, CBS made a big deal about having a computer predict the next president. However, this computer was just a prop. The real computer was nearly 100 miles away in Philadelphia. A good example of election night theatrics. So if the media typically calls the election on election night, how do they do that?
Wisconsin is one of the minority of states, unfortunately, that cannot start processing any absentee ballots until Election Day. So they can't do any of the opening of the envelopes or feeding those ballots into tabulators prior to Election Day. So you've got voters who are coming in doing their traditional vote in person, but then you've also got poll workers who are processing all of the absentee ballots that they might have for the voters who vote at that polling place as well. So come this November, you can imagine that that's going to probably be the vast majority of the work that they do at the polling place in November is actually just going to be processing those absentee ballots.
But again, much of the reporting comes from counting the in-person vote. Since this year, more people than ever will be voting by mail, we might not have data for those votes until days after the election, which all means that the media won't be able to announce a winner on election night.
And the new president of the United States is...
There's been a lot of reporting about this, that while one side or the other might try to declare victory on election night, I think that there's going to be a lot of caution on the part of the media. They don't want to get the call wrong. And with so many outstanding mail-in ballots, I think there's a good understanding that if it's close in a state that matters for the Electoral College, they may not be able to crunch the numbers sufficiently to know what is outstanding in order to figure out who has won that state's Electoral College votes.
Folks, we don't know what else to tell you at this stage because the numbers do keep changing.
What we do know is that the 20th Amendment says that if no president has been chosen by January 20th, then the existing president is no longer in office, and we go to the rules of succession as to who would be president. So we've heard, Nancy Pelosi becoming president as the Speaker of the House, or Chuck Grassley as the President pro temp of the Senate. And there are all kinds of scenarios in which, we could theoretically imagine that we don't have a presidential election resolved by January 20th.
Our voting system is adapting to our country's need to stay safe during COVID-19, and that's affecting not only how we vote, but how we count those votes and declare a winner. And in a massive decentralized voting system, those changes are wide-ranging and look a little different all over the country. But one change that is consistent from person to person that we've talked to is that election night just might not be telling us the winner of this election. We're just going to have to be patient for days or maybe even weeks until every American's vote is counted.